What I'll do then is I'll kick off. It's 3 minutes past now. Same format as usual. So I'll go over what we've done the last 12 months, a little bit about the events we've done, what our member growth's looking like, what we've done to develop society, what we're doing in terms of outreach. The new one for this year is the Chief Restoration Project update, which is going to replace the research update. And then I know everyone's been talking about it. If you haven't been, you certainly should be, but the timeline to appoint a commander, what that looks like. And then I'll talk about what's next. So I normally present quite a comprehensive action plan. This year, I'm just distilling it down to the absolute, what do we have to do next? Rather than create a great big action plan that runs over multiple years, I'm just going to say, here's my priority actions and here's what I'm going to do as well. And then as usual, open the floor to any discussion. If anyone has any other business, then feel free to raise it. Like I said, put hands up if you want to interrupt or want to ask a question. So last 12 months, events still going very nicely. I've sent out a load of new convener kits this week, actually. Some because of the new branding, but also some new kits to new people. So every year we're picking up probably 2 or 3 new conveners. Number of events there you can see has been fairly stable for the first 3 years, but this year we've put a few more in. What's hidden behind that is the first couple of years, quite a few of those events were Michael Watson attending as an athlete. So it wasn't really a Watson booth, it was Michael going under our banner with a few business cards and things. So behind that is the events that weren't athletic events. So that number's been growing consistently. So far we've done 5 this year, sorry, with another 8 planned. Very pleased to return to Canada for a second year. I do hope at some point we can find someone more local who will take that over, because I don't obviously want to do that every year. There was a family from just down the road who turned up this year who showed a lot of interest. Waiting for them to contact me, so hopefully they do. As usual, thank you to everyone that's represented us. A lot of you on this phone call have done so. It is appreciated, as you know. Just a list of the events on the right there. As you can see, apart from the ones in Canada, they're all in California, Colorado, Texas. We were talking over the weekend about doing a few more, but I'll cover that in the.
Well, I think what we're going.
Here's a few pictures from the events we've done. So on the left is last year at Fergus. It was me and Doug in the parade. We were the only 2 in the parade last year, but we had fun. One important person I met last year was Lord Lyon. So we had a good chat about what it takes to put a commander in place, and he was very supportive, said you should do it straight away. But obviously straight away means start the process, not just write to him immediately, although we did send him a letter through one of his liaisons and got a response directly from Lord Lyon, actually. So those discussions have started. Again, I'll cover that in a bit, but it is glacially slow. On the right there, that's Katrina and Tonya. They did the Pleasanton Games for the last couple of years. I don't think they're able to do it this year, unfortunately, but it's another one that's worth going to for anyone out that way. A few more pictures. So yeah, Colorado, Texas, Michael on the left there, and Todd and Linda in the middle. And on the right, you see Bill McQuatters as well, who's one of our members, but he's also quite active in the Buchanan Society. So he tends to convene a tent for them, which you'll see here, pitched up next to ours in Texas. On the left, those of you that were in the first Zoom meeting might recognize Bart Forbes. So he is the president of the Clam Forbes Society. He's also on the committee of the COSCA Association, which is the umbrella association in the US. So he's a very helpful chap, especially in the early years when I was getting things kicked off. He was very, very useful, quite happy to help out. One thing I'd recommend is if you're doing events is do speak to the Buchanans and see if you can pitch up next to them. They're very supportive, but they also consider us to be one of their sets, which drives people our way. If they come to the Buchanans thinking they're a Buchanan because they're a Watson, and then find a Watson stand next door, it's useful to have some more sort of dedicated discussions on all matters Watson. Just to point out that these events is not just standing around in a tent all day. So these are some pictures from last year. There's myself and Doug hydrating for the parade in Fergus last year. A picture from Texas in the middle. So you'll often find that there's meetings or socials for the conveners. There was one in Fergus this year, Last Clan Standing, they called it, which we skipped because we weren't Last Clan Standing. We went and did our own thing. On the right again is Fergus. So that was actually Lord Lyon's dinner, where all the chiefs and Lord Lyon attended a dinner, and you could buy tickets. So we all went along. I'm sitting there with Jim Buchanan as well, who's president of the Clan Buchanan Society. And the big one, that was where I've just come back from, and several of you as well. So our first ever gathering of this version of a Clan Watson Society. And have to say, I'm a bit ashamed I didn't do it earlier because it was absolutely brilliant. Getting to meet you guys in the flesh really adds a new dimension. We speak once a year on these things. We communicate a lot over Messenger, but there's really no substitute for meeting people in real life. And I don't know about you guys, but I actually felt that it actually energized me quite a lot. It was really re-energized everything. So you see us center left at the top there. That was us those of us that got there early went to the parade the day before in downtown Fergus, which was really good fun. All of the residents come out and sit on their front lawns and wave you past. Really nice. Bottom right in the center there is my wife, who for the first time ever came and got involved in something to do with clans. I thought it could go either way. Fortunately, she absolutely loved it and really enjoyed meeting all of you guys, which is good. Another couple of important meetings. So on the left there is Sir John McEwen, who's the chief of Clan McEwen, with myself and the Buchanans. I had a quick chat with him. And on the right is Rupert Irving of Bonshaw, who's the chief of Clan Irving. So we actually went out for dinner with him on the last night, myself and the Watsons that were left. Everyone else had to leave early, so I stayed up and had a couple of drinks with him, and we had a really good chat actually about the way things are going and the way he sees things. He's very, very active in the Standing Council of Scottish Chiefs, so he has some very useful feedback. Again, I might cover that in a moment. More pictures from the weekend. I think the best picture of a Watson ever is that one at the top left of Todd posing. And as you can see right below that, he does like to pose for the camera. There's us sitting in our seats ready for the opening ceremony and a few of us around the tent. The last post I put out today was about how, things don't just happen on the field. We're not standing around in the kilt all day. The social aspect for me was really good. So we met up in the evenings. And on the Saturday, I declined a dinner with Sir John McEwen in favour of a social I'd arranged with the Watsons that turned up. So all 12 of us were there. Really nice. We actually sat in the hotel restaurant, had some food, and then the Quake came out and went around. A few stories, a few nice things said. Best thing of the night came from Gary, who said the only thing better than drinking with old friends is drinking with new friends, which is something I'm going to borrow forever now. It was a really lovely quote, but it was absolutely spot on. What have we got coming? So we got something in Tennessee coming up, and Oklahoma, Colorado, Utah, and Texas. So we're pretty well covered in the US for the next 5 months. 5 different states, which is good. What we talked about over the weekend was targeting Grandfather Mountain and Stone Mountain for next year. So Gary is offered to support that. What we do need is more people to get involved. I think it's too much just to ask 2 people to do it. So again, I might cover that in a bit, but what I'll be doing, you'll see on my action list, one of the things I want to do is try and get some people together to do those games. They are big. The Grandfather Mountain one is considered the biggest one in the US, I believe. And Stone Mountain's not a million miles away from it. So yeah, we had a discussion about targeting those for next year. There's still lots of events in the US at which we're not present, and there's a hell of a lot of Watsons in the US. Sometimes they write to me and say, are you going to be at these games? And my default response is no, but you're quite welcome to go along. Have a look at the games and let us know if it's something you would like to get involved in for next year as an actual tent. So I'm trying to push people to do it, but if people have a games near them, they think we should be there, let me know. I will either try and rope them in, or I will see who's near there that might be interested. And these things are, as we found this weekend, these things are a lot better when there's more of you going. You share the load, you can man the stand while other people go for a walk around, you can have some socials. Just gives a whole new atmosphere. In terms of member growth, as you can see on the right, it's still showing no signs of slowing whatsoever. We're just about to hit 800 members now. So Facebook's gone from under 600 to over 700 in the last year. So these are people who have actually created or joined the main Facebook group. I don't include the UK one in there. 76 people that have joined the website and not the Facebook group. So when you add those up together, it's 796. So website members, I only include the ones who've created a member account, not people who signed up for the mailing list. So yeah, we've gone from 641 last year to 796 now. So still showing some pretty good growth. I don't see any signs of it slowing. And this year we had 140 people, 43 people registering for accounts on the website. So it's 93 more than we had last year. So that's the total that have registered, not the number in the year. So another 50 added this year. In terms of donations, number of people who are donating has dropped slightly, but the actual amount coming in is more. So yeah, thanks for everybody. And I guess that's normal. I guess a lot of people signed up once and just thought, I'll see what this is about, and got what they needed from the website and probably have drifted off. But hopefully if we can build some more engaging content that will and get more active, hopefully that will grow a little more in future. But we're doing okay. So past 12 months, what have we been up to? So the biggest highlight for me, it was the launch of what we called the Chief Restoration Project, which wasn't actually a new project. That was just us collecting all the stuff together that was supporting us running for a new chief or commander. But the Logans actually had a chief restoration project, and I spoke to Kenny Logan, their commander in Fergus last year. I've kept in touch with him ever since, and he's quite happy for us to steal their branding on that one. So that's good. It kind of makes it a bit easier to talk about rather than talking about various strands that are supporting it, just to have one banner. Part of that was us rebranding from Clan Watson Society to House of Watson. I didn't know how that would be received. I'm thankful that people in general have been very supportive of it. Since we've done that, I've discussed with Lion, who said it's a good idea. I've discussed with Kenny Logan, the commander of Logan, who said he wished he'd called it House of Logan and not Clan Logan before he started the process, because it took them much, much longer than it should have done as Clan Logan. The chief of Irving as well, who we went out for dinner with, he said he's exactly the right thing to do. And I had a long chat yesterday with the chief of Irvine as well, Alexander Irvine O'Drum, who's a friend of mine, and he said he's very impressed with everything we've done so far with House of Watson. So he's very supportive as well. So I think if chiefs and the Lord Lion are making the right noises, then like it or lump it, then the rebranding of House of Watson was good. I actually really like Todd and Linda. You made up some House of Watson t-shirts for Fergus, which I thought were really, really good. So it might be, maybe we want to think about getting some more of those done off and making them available to people. They were great. The other one I've talked about already, so we've expanded the use of the research budget to include the general costs associated with the petitioning for the commander. Our research is getting there now. We've also started discussions with Lion, so thank you, Joe, for introducing me to him in Fergus last year. Since then, I've been in discussions with a professor and professional genealogist who has the right of audience with Lord Lion. As far as I know, there's only one of them, so he is our point of entry to Lion. He's been very, very helpful, and he's spelled out exactly what the timetable looks like, what the process would be. So I'll cover that in a moment. We talked a lot last year, and I think even mentioned the year before, about launching as a Scottish charity. The budget that's coming in, I really want it to be auditable, so I do publish the accounts. Anyone who wants to see them is quite welcome, and I will send you an anonymized version. I won't put people's names on it, but I will show you what's coming when and where it's being used. I'm hoping you can see that I put a lot of my own money into this, so it's not like I'm taking donations and then blowing them on all sorts of stuff. One thing that came up in discussions with Lord Lion's gatekeeper is that if we formalise now as a Scottish charity, Lord Lion might go, oh, that's very nice. I'd like to give it 5 more years to see how the charity does before you come back to me to talk about petitioning for a commander. I think we probably all want to see a new commander and maybe even a chief in place in our lifetimes. And I don't know if a 5-year delay is consistent with that for all of us. So I think we just put that on hold for now. So Lord Lion's advisor has said, once we've launched the process to do a petition, we can then start thinking about formalizing. The other option, of course, is to set up a 501c3 in the US, which might be off Lion's books. And as that's where a lot of our revenue and spending comes from, that could make sense. I was keen on the Scottish charity because it demonstrates a tie to Scotland, but if it's going to work against us, then that's not something I want to do right now. We need to start the discussions formally first. We also set up a Facebook group for Scotland and the UK, or more accurately, Joe did. Has a few members in it. I tend to post stuff on there about, for example, the Archaeological Society in Edinburgh does a lot of digs at the chief's house, so they have a lot of open days. I tend to post those on there, so it's more regional sort of content. The idea was this was the first of us becoming more regional. And as support of that as well, I launched a questionnaire on regional chapters. I thought it was good to get some feedback on what people think a regional chapter should look like, how far they'd be willing to travel, what they would be willing to do to support it. So I had a few returns on that, not as many as I was hoping for, but there's a little bit of information in there. And as I said, we discussed it this weekend as well. In terms of outreach, so as I said, I've discussed our chief restoration project with Lion, two chiefs and a commander, and they've all been really helpful. In fact, Kenny Logan, who you see on the right there, offered to provide whatever support he could. He's just been through the process, literally got confirmed as commander a few weeks ago. So he's learned a lot of lessons and has been through the whole process with the same advisor we're using. So I've emailed him quite a bit. He was actually hoping to make it out to Fergus, but he was in Scotland to receive his letters patent for his arms as commander just before Fergus, and he didn't have time to make it out again. But yeah, he's very helpful. Continuing to strengthen the relationship with Clan Buchanan Society. Initially, there was some pushback from them because they thought we were stealing one of their seps, but I think we've realised that the relationship's quite beneficial, especially when we pitch up next to each other. You can see the back of their tent next to ours there. So I pop next door and help them with their seps. And any Watsons that drop by them come and see me, and we have a bit more discussion specific to the Watsons rather than Buchanan's. So yeah, I'm not trying to poach their people. I'm just trying to give them more information and help them make decisions on, what they want to join and where they want to stick their efforts. I still write for the Buchanan's newsletter. So I have a booklet I've printed for the stands that has all of my articles in. So I cover all of their seps, including the Watsons. That's very nearly finished, actually, and then I'll turn it into something that can go onto stands with the proper front sheet and everything. One thing we did last year as well, so the field Kinlochard it was a community buyout of some common land in Kinlochard in Scotland. So it was owned by the council, who, like councils everywhere, were trying to raise money, so they were selling it. There was a danger it was going to go to a developer. So this is a large area of open land, sort of a bit of moorland, some woods, some paths that the community uses a lot. And they didn't want to see it sold to a developer, so they did a community fundraiser. I stuck some money in under the banner of House of Watson. It was my own money, so I didn't use society funds. But they put shout out on social media once they raised enough money to buy the field, and they included their name in that. So I look for opportunities to do that. It just gets our name out there and gets people maybe who haven't heard of us to go to the website. So I'll keep looking for those opportunities. So in terms of outreach, I think word is getting out there. So people are noticing, and I'm doing my best to make strategic relationships and just get the word out. And you guys are obviously doing a great job of that as well, with turning up at events, handing out business cards, pointing people to the website. Chief Restoration Project update. So just as a recap, we started bringing on our paid researcher in 2023. That's when I started up the supporters group and asked people if they wanted to contribute. She's, the first 2 years, she was very, very active, digging out a lot of documentation, very, very useful. Slowed down a bit now, and I think that's just because there's not so much stuff to find. So I completed the first volume of the research dossier this year, so that encapsulated everything we know on the Watsons of Cranston as a kind of prologue. But it does look, as we go through it, it looks increasingly unlikely we're going to find an eligible heir. Now, Rupert Irving was saying, well, it's only a couple of 100 years ago that your last chief died, so it's more than likely there are descendants out there. We know there are through the Earls of Morton. So the current Earl of Morton is the closest genetic heir to our last chief. However, he's not interested in being our chief because he's trying to become chief of Douglas. And Lion has suggested that he's too far removed from the last person in his family tree to be called Watson anyway, to be considered eligible. So yes, there are living descendants, and we know there are, but they are quite some way from the last Watsons. And every other branch I've followed so far has fizzled out. So the focus, now we're getting increasingly certain that we won't find an eligible heir. The focus has switched to petitioning for a commander, whose job is to make sure there is no eligible heir, or make sure if there is one, we find him. So it's not like we're saying we're giving up on the chief idea. So as I say, we started discussions with Lord Lion and one of his liaisons. We need to set up a steering group as part of this. So we do have a leader appointed. Thank you, Scott. I've sent out some calls for people to be involved in that. Scott's a very busy man. He can't do everything on his own. But also the steering group needs to have a decent number of people in it. So Lion's advisor was suggesting 8 was a good number, because then if you get a vote, it's a clear one way or the other. It's like 5 or 3 or a 6 or 2. 4 and 4 is not good, but yeah, because they need to vote on stuff and you need to have a clear majority. So he said 8 is a good number, and they need to come from all of our regions. So ideally, we'll have at least 1 or 2 from the UK, 1 or 2 from Australia and New Zealand. I would say if we can get 1 from South Africa, and then the balance from the US and Canada. I think it's reasonable to have quite a few from the US because that's where a lot of our members are. Members on the steering group, they have to be viewed as speaking for a considerable number of Watsons in their area and representing them and representing their views. And they must also have the legal last name of Watson. So those are stipulations from Lyon himself. And if we do get as far as having a vote for commander, anyone who votes must also have the legal last name of Watson. Timeline, I've not communicated this outside of the supporters group. So I sent a copy of the memo I got from the advisor. And he had 2 pages of text spelling this out. So I've just done it in a single graphic. So if we were to start the process around now, it would take us a few weeks to submit a petition to Lyon, and that would be requesting that he approves us having a family convention in which we vote on a commander for the Watsons. He can say yes or no. Assuming he says yes, we then need to go into some discussions. So internally, we'd look at venues and dates, and then we would propose that to Lyon, and he would say yes, and he would then appoint a supervising officer. So that's a delegate for him, basically, who gets involved in the minutiae of us setting this thing up, and will transmit his findings to Lyon so Lyon can make a decision. That would mean early next year, we would put out announcements, firstly to say we're going to have a family convention, but importantly also to put out a call for anybody who's interested in putting their name forward for commander. In the meantime, we would have to create effectively a job description for what a commander does and what our requirements are. Yep, Joe?
Can't we just nominate you?
You're welcome to nominate me.
Right, I'm nominating you officially. There we go.
There we go, thank you. So yeah, unsurprisingly, I would put my hat in. If I'm the only candidate, then it's just a case of do we accept this person or not? And you're all welcome to say no. If there are other candidates, then the steering group would have to screen them to make sure that only people who hit certain qualifying criteria go into the pot, and ideally come up with a short list of no more than, say, 3 or 4. So 20, yeah.
Can I ask another question to everybody else here tonight? Do you agree with my suggestion that we put Shane forward?
You can message her privately if you like.
So, yes, wholeheartedly.
Me too.
However, one of the jobs of the steering group is to ensure that we cover all bases across the world of Watsons. Okay. So, whilst I think within the group that we have at the moment, I would say Shane is quite a clear candidate, and I don't think we would get many arguments from within that group. No. We need to make sure that we're going beyond this group as well to make sure that we're satisfying, what Lord Lyon is going to be looking for. So I think Joe, we're all on board with that, but we're going to need to make sure we tick all the boxes as well outside of this.
That's fine. I understand.
And you may find a better candidate through the process, which is fine, We need the best person in seat, right? So I should also say I'm not going to be involved in the steering group because I will put my name in the hat. So I will have nothing to do with the steering group. So it operates completely independently of me. What I will do is facilitate stuff going on the website and putting out adverts and communications, but I will have nothing to do with drafting them. I will have no say in what happens. And I will have no say in the screening process. So anyone's welcome to put their name in. The steering committee will look at them impartially, and they will select a short list of candidates who will then be put forward to the wider membership. And this is another one where there's some subtlety. So there's a difference between a clan or a family and a clan society when it comes to doing this. So the House of Watson International Society, everyone in there is welcome to have a vote and do what they like, but Lyon will want to make sure we've tried to reach other Watsons who aren't members as well. It's a strange subtlety there, because to me, the society is how you reach people. But that's something the steering group will have to deal with Lion's advisor. Yes, Barry?
Yes, I want to formally second the nomination for Shane as spearheading the search for the next chief to be the commander.
Thank you, Barry. And that is one thing that a commander will have to do, is take over a lot of what I'm currently doing. So when people are nominating or voting for him, they need to make sure it's someone who can take the work I've done forward and not just pick it up and take credit for it and then do nothing. So it needs to be someone who will maintain momentum, will make sure we are looking thoroughly for any descendants of the last chief, and they have to do it with rigor and impartially. If I find a living descendant of the next chief, I will happily put them forward to become chief. I'm not going to try and pretend they're not there just because I want to do the job. So yeah, 27 will be spent in trying to reach candidates, try to reach people who can vote, and screening candidates and shortlisting. What we'll have to do early as well. So as I've said, we'll announce where and when the convention will be. It makes sense to do it in Edinburgh because that's where the Watsons were from. It probably doesn't make sense to do it in Stockton, which is where the Chiefs were from, because that's now just a huge prison and the area around it is not fantastic, which is a shame because I would really love to buy a little place there. So, because then I could even call myself a Watson of Stockton, even if I'm not the Watson of Stockton. So there are a few options. Our advisor has said that Napier University is not a bad one. There's also a big holiday inn by the zoo, which is where I stayed when I went to Edinburgh last time. It's okay. It's functional as a hotel. So
I can get that sorted. Yeah, Napier won't be a problem.
Okay, sounds like you're volunteering to join the steering group, although I may be a little premature.
I did.
So yeah, we would have to have a family convention, as I say, probably in Edinburgh. It would have to have remote dialing because we know not everyone's going to make it. It would be good if people could make it. So this weekend, for example, a few people were saying, oh, they want to go to Scotland again. I said, well, don't plan it just yet, because if you could coincide your trip with our family convention, that would be really good. Now, at this convention, what will happen is the screening group should have put forward the shortlist for voting or just screened out to one candidate. So it's probably an idea to have some internal alignment in the voting pool first. And the idea of the convention is the Lord Lyon's supervising officer will be there and he will want to see that there's some fairly overwhelming support for the proposed candidate. So it's better to go with a small number of candidates or one candidate and show that the entire voting pool supports that candidate with very few exceptions. And to do that, of course, you have to have everybody who can vote voting. You can't just screen out to the voters who support a candidate. Now, if there is support for a single candidate, then Lyon may agree to appoint them as a commander, but there's no certainties. He might say, I don't think you're established enough yet, or I don't think it was conclusive enough, or there's not enough of you voting, or I don't like the cut of this guy's jib. It's up to him. Now, when I spoke to him, he was very, very supportive. This Lyon is very keen on reaching out to diaspora. He's very keen on seeing more commanders and chiefs of names because it gives a focal point for families. I think probably directly actually, it increases the interest in Scotland and that has tourism benefits. So there's many reasons why it's beneficial. Now, I have heard that Lyon is considering retiring in the next couple of years. So when we get to our family convention, there may be a new Lyon in place, but I don't know. And what I've seen historically is that every time a new Lyon comes on seat, he has a slightly different view from the previous one. So there's no guaranteeing that a new Lord Lyon will have the same views as the outgoing Lord Lyon. So that's one thing we may have to contend with. Yes, Barry?
Is Lord Lyon a lifetime appointment?
I don't believe so, no, because I think Lyon's looking at retiring at the moment. He's getting on a bit. He's been doing this a long time. He puts a lot of energy into it. If you follow him on,
Well, I mean, until they went to retire, or is it for a set term of years?
Good question. I think it's until they step down, unless obviously they're not doing the job.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But I mean, Lion is the king's representative when it comes to heraldry in Scotland, effectively. And he was, at any of the big royal ceremonies, he's there.
Okay.
Okay.
They are essentially a lord. So you are a lord for life unless it is removed by the king. His position, he basically keeps until he no longer wishes to have that, or again, it would have to be formally removed. I am actually not aware of any situation where a Lord Lion has been formally removed. Shane, I don't know if you're.
I'm not, and some have been better than others, but I think the
Yeah,
current Lion does an absolutely excellent job. He's
yeah.
very,
So I think it's very much they've got the job for as long as they want it.
yeah. So anyway, that's one uncertainty in the process is Lion may change at some point, but that's what the timeline looks like for now. It is a glacially slow process. So although we've said start a process, we have started discussions. The period of time between us starting it and submitting a petition is, a few weeks, 3 months, but it's how long is a piece of string? Until our advisor has decided we've got everything in place. And everyone's busy as well. So, people can't devote 100% of their time to it. Scott's a very busy chap. And at the moment he is the steering group. So I've had a couple of volunteers for it. If anyone else is interested and they have the legal name of Watson, drop me a line after this and I can put you in touch with Scott if you don't already have his details. But it is a slow process. And obviously this is something people are doing in the background. It's not something they can devote 100% of their time to. So it will happen as it happens. And if it slips too far, we'll push the convention to 29. But I think there's quite a bit of slack in the process in 27, as you can see. So I think the only must do is I think there has to be a year's notice between the family convention and the announcement, which is point 4. Any other questions on that yet, Joe?
Yeah, sorry. Lots of questions tonight. The family convention, does it have to be in person or can it be online?
It's supposed to be in person with the option for people to join online.
Okay.
So yeah, it should be in person. Typically, these things get between about 30 and 60 people attending.
Okay.
Which is what I'm saying to people, if you're planning a trip to Scotland, just hold fire for now. So what we'll do, if enough people come, is we'll look to put together some sort of itinerary as well, where people can go and travel around. And if there's enough people, maybe we'll hire a coach or something and go and visit a few sites relative to the Watsons around the Edinburgh area, maybe up to 5. And then people will obviously come for at least a couple of weeks, probably if they're coming a long way. So we can give some tips on where to go and what to see.
Have Kaylee as well.
Kaylee would be, yeah. So I was thinking actually what would be good would be to have one evening where we have a good meal with a band come in with a Kaylee. That would be fun.
Yeah.
And we could
Leave it
always
with me.
we could open that up as well to a few people if there's only a dozen of us there because it would be a bit weird. Yeah. No, that was one thing on my thoughts actually.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the commander thing? I mean, we'll learn a lot about this process as we go through it. And as I say, there are others, including a very recently appointed commander who are quite happy to help us.
And I'm going to drop my email address in the chat. So whilst Shane is heavily involved in this, we also need to be very careful of we will eventually get to a stage where Shane can't be involved in this particular part.
Yeah.
So I'll put my contact details in the chat, and you're more than welcome to reach out to me, and if you would like to volunteer to be part of that. But that said, Shane will be involved in this as much as we can possibly do so. Certainly just now, because he is the person that knows everything and leads it all. But just for everyone else's benefit, there is a point where that will have to change in terms of the Chief Restoration Project, not in terms of House of Watson, but just in terms of the Chief Restoration Project. And that's purely an administrative thing if Shane is to go for becoming a candidate for commander.
Yeah, I would be very much at arm's length. I mean, what I would be doing, of course, is supplying funding from the House of Watson. but I wouldn't have any visibility of what's going on in the steering group or any possibility to influence it, which is good. That's what I prefer. I would rather everything is done transparently and openly in the correct way. Otherwise, there'll always be questions. Okay. So what's next? So my immediate priorities. We had some good chats last weekend. So Gary and Paula have offered to help facilitate Grandfather Mountain and Stone Mountains. They're also looking at a chapter maybe in Lower Alabama, as I've learned it's called, or around where they are. So I'm going to try and use Copilot to pull me out a list of all the members on the member map that are within, say, 100 miles of these areas as a go by, and then I will start contacting people. Again, I'll try and use Copilot to make it quicker, just to see whether there's any interest in, attending to see what's going on or to help running things. So if we can do that, that would be good. I know Barry, Todd, Linda, Lynn, you've all also shown an interest in getting a bit more coordinated in Texas with regards to maybe starting a chapter down that way. So again, I'll try and find or reach out to the members in Texas. I've just not had the time to do it recently. I'm afraid working in an oil company in the Gulf at the moment has taken a lot of my time, and getting ready for Fergus took the rest of it. So, but now at least Fergus is behind us. I do have a little time, so I'm going to try and work on those things. Another thing that has been on my burner since we rebranded actually is to try to, I'm going to put some articles out for the umbrella organizations. So the US, we've got COSCA. In Canada, we have Scots of Canada. And then in Australia, we've got the SAHC. So I'll put out an article publicising our rebranding and the Chief Restoration Project. And this is part of raising the visibility, maybe getting some people into the steering group, maybe getting some people to think about putting their name in as commander. And also just to publicise that we are now House of Watson. I had a chat with Bill Petrie, who runs the Scots of Canada in Fergus. He said, yeah, send me whatever you've got. We're always looking for articles. And I'm sure Bart at the COSCA and Malcolm Buchanan at SAHC will be exactly the same. Other stuff, obviously kicking off the steering group. I put that under others because that's not something I want to mandate a timeline for. Everyone's a volunteer and it has to happen in a pace that makes sense for people. And as I say, I'll be at arm's length. So I'm not going to be knocking on the door every Monday saying, what's going on? What's going on? So that's, I've put under others, even though to me, that's, if we want to get something done in 28, that's reasonably high priority. The usual thing about continuing to grow our presence and seek out volunteer regional leaders. So we'll have a go at a couple of chapters. As I said, this week I've sent out a few convener kits already, some of those to new people who are looking at representing us at new games. So we are continuing to grow our visibility in the US. I need to pick up work again on research dossiers. I think rather than start from the beginning and work forward, I'm actually going to work from the end and work back, because the way we are searching for a chief is from the last chief and all of his descendants and all of his siblings and all of their descendants. Then we go back up a level to the chief before that. So it makes sense to write the dossiers that way, because that way, when we show them to Lord Lyon, at least the parts relevant to our search for a new chief are done, even if I haven't done the early ones. There is quite a lot of work to do. And there's going to be a hell of a lot of work for the later ones because there's so many of them and so many records. So I will try and work on the dossier that covers the last generations of the Watsons of Stockton first. And I will start on that this year. That's my priorities for the year at the moment. I don't want to be too ambitious. A couple of other things in there. What I want to do is, there's a lot of talk about material for convener stands. I do have the conveners kit page, but that's quite a lot of information. What I'll do is I'll put together a page that only conveners can access that will just have all of the files you can download and print out for the stands. So we've got the Watson Places booklet, we've got the Watson booklet itself, the names of the Buchanan booklet I put together, which is kind of secondary. There's all the newsletters, there's a few bits, there's the sign-up forms. So I'll just put them all in a fairly simple web page where you can just click on a link and download them in US or UK format, just for printing out. There was one other thing as well, which has slipped my mind. Oh, I'm going to spruce up the front page of the website as well. It's got a beautiful picture of my kilt and sporran on it, but it takes up a lot of space. And I'm going to replace that with a picture of all of us marching in Fergus now, just to show that there are a few of us and we all do unite under the Watson banner. So I think that'd be more appropriate. And I'll try and simplify the website as well, but those are really tertiary jobs. And that was everything I had to say. So I don't know. I know we had a few questions on the way in, but if others have got questions now, then let me have them. Joe, yeah, you're on mute.
I was just clapping to say well done and thank
Oh,
you for
okay.
everything you do for all of us. Yeah, it's I know how much work it is doing stuff like this, and we all appreciate it. So, and we appreciate you. So thank you.
Fortunately, I enjoy it, but thank you, Joe. Yeah, I will keep going as long as I can. Yeah, Todd, Linda.
So I was just wondering if you have, and if you've discussed this and I missed it, I apologize, but having people pay dues to help cover some of our running costs every year, like the website and research and things like that. I know for like Clan Buchanan, they pay $25 per year to be a subscriber to their newsletter and whatnot.
So it is £10 a year for base level membership, and that gives you access to the website. So there's a few pages on there that are members only. So there's a library on there where I've put a lot of documentation that we've uncovered during our research, and some of that is really, really hard to find. There's the What's in Places, which gives people printable guides they can use if they're visiting Edinburgh and gives them some places to go. And then there's the research budget. So that's minimum £25 a year. So that includes the £10 for the access to the website, and then the rest goes into our research pot. So there is a due paying structure. At the moment, I don't think I can justify charging people more because, this is still a one-man band at the moment. It's not like a big organization like CBSI that has a whole load of things going on, and they have scholarship grants and they have initiatives to put up signs here and there, and they are buying churches, and they've got pipers and chaplains, and they have a conveners grant that they give out. So that's a huge formal organization, but I can't run that organization on my own.
Yeah.
I think once we get charity set up, maybe, and that starts to develop its own merchandise and ways of working, and maybe some sort of structure, possibly there's justification for charging people more. I've been very slow at chasing people whose membership has expired. I need to find a polite way to send them an email to say, are you still interested in being a member? So there's a few people who have paid and who haven't paid to cover this year, and I think maybe some of them is just because they haven't realised.
A polite way to do that would be announcing the Chief Restoration Project and everything that the House of Watson is now doing.
Yeah.
Reminding them that we're still here and that we need their support. I would say that's the ideal opportunity to start drumming up some.
Yes.
I'm always a fan of keeping the fees lower.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people on this call will go above and beyond that, but I'm always a fan of keeping the fees lower and having more people than raising fees to counteract the amount of people that are going on, because you see that a lot with other organisations.
And just because the membership fee may be £10, say, that doesn't limit any of us from donating more if we want and if we are able.
And some people have put in quite a bit, for which I'm extremely thankful. So one thing in response to some of the stuff you said, so the newsletter, I know CBSI only give it to their members. They are happy for people to forward it on unofficially. I keep that free to access because I think it's got useful information in it, and it's a way to bring people in. I think if I only say you can only have it if you're a member, it limits the circulation and is probably counterintuitive. What's happening more and more now is, rather than having fixed subs, is some organizations are actually going to sort of crowdfunding for specific initiatives. So that's something that could be considered for Chief Restoration as well. You could just have a crowdfunding campaign for the Chief Restoration project. And that's a way to bring in revenue to cover what is going to be a huge expense. Any more?
I wanted to add on my own 2 cents about our gathering in Fergus. I really enjoyed meeting everybody in person for a change.
Yeah.
And being among so many Scots or people of Scottish descent that have come from such a wide range geographically.
Yeah.
For us all to come together, it was amazing.
No, it was great. It was great. Really good. And I appreciated everyone that came and made it a weekend. Like I say, it really made a huge difference for me. One thing I was going to add, so we're looking at maybe a family convention in 28 if we can get things running. I think it would be good, maybe the year after, to think about another, meetup in the US, maybe Texas or Grandfather Mountain or something. Maybe we can target something. You all invited me over, basically, and the wife. I think it wouldn't be unreasonable to have one of these big meetings. Not every year, I think it's a big commitment, but if we could do it every few years, I think that would be awesome. And the
Well,
Americans,
everybody's always
Canada,
invited.
yeah, sorry.
Everybody's always invited to Colorado. We can easily
Yeah.
make a meetup here.
Yeah. So I think we'd target where we've already got conveners and we've already got games, and we'd target maybe the bigger ones. So I know Grandfather Mountain, the Colorado one, I think Salado, Pleasanton, they're all quite big. So it makes sense to target one of them. And if there's some happening together in a close by area, maybe we could do more than one. But I think to target one, just to get as many people there as possible, we could. And the Americans came to Canada this year. I would hope a few people would come across to Scotland in 28. So I think it would be fair to do one in the States as soon as we can after that. And again, I know not everyone can travel, but even with the dozen of us there, it made it such a good weekend. And as I said, everyone's always welcome out here. So we have our first visitor coming in October. So John Warren's popping through Doha on his way to Cambodia, so he'll be staying with us. So I'll make sure there's some pictures going up. Any more? Good. Any other last comments before I wrap up? Good. Well, in that case, thank you all for your time. Appreciate it as always. Your support is what makes this thing happen, basically. Like I said in Fergus, what makes a clan or a family is the people in it, and you are those people. So without you, there would be no House of Watson. So I don't want it all to come on me all the time. It's you guys that make this thing happen, really. I'm just a guy who started a website. You guys are the ones who chose to jump on board. So thank you all, and do keep in touch. If there's anything that you want to talk about or drop me a line or anything, then I'm always here. Thank you all.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Shane. Thanks, everybody.